Okay, what if I told you that you could shrink months of life-saving cancer research down to the time it takes to, I don't know, make a cup of coffee? Well, a new AI platform is doing exactly that. And honestly, the results they're just staggering.
And here you can see the sheer scale of this thing. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got traditional research. We're talking weeks, maybe even months of work for a whole team. And on the right, this AI, GaiaLab, does the same work in just 35 seconds. 35 seconds. So the big question is, how on earth is this even possible? Well, it all starts by attacking the single biggest problem in drug discovery. And that's just the insane amount of information. Think about it. Every single day, new scientific papers get published. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. You end up with this mountain of data that is it's physically impossible for any human team to fully process.
Yeah, and this quote really just hits the nail on the head. Imagine this, right? You take a complex list of genes and you have to turn that into a complete research plan. That's a process that usually takes a whole team of scientists weeks or even months. That is the exact bottleneck this AI, GaiaLab, was built to just completely shatter.
So what's the solution? Enter GaiaLab. It's an AI-powered biological intelligence platform. And I want you to think of it less like a simple search engine, right? And more like a lightning-fast research assistant that has a PhD in pretty much every scientific field imaginable.
Okay, so how does it actually do this? It really comes down to two key things. First, it's constantly scanning more than 23 live biological databases all at once. Yeah, we're talking PubMed, ClinicalTrials.gov, the whole shebang. But the second part, and this is the really cool part, it doesn't just spit out one simple answer. Instead, it actually stages a debate to figure out the truth.
And this debate is just fascinating. It's run by a team of 6 specialized AI agents. So you've got the hypothesis agent that comes in and says, hey, here's an idea. Then, right away, the critic agent jumps in to challenge it, trying to poke holes in the theory. The evidence agent starts digging up all the supporting data, while the risk agent is there to flag any contradictions in the research. Then you have the innovation agent looking for those weird, non-obvious connections. And finally, the synthesis agent takes all of that and forms one solid, battle-tested conclusion. Okay, so the theory sounds incredible, right? But what about actual results? You know, where the rubber meets the road. Well, the team behind GaiaLab put it to the ultimate test. They pitted it against glioblastoma, which is one of the absolute toughest and most aggressive brain cancers out there. So here was the mission. They gave GaiaLab 3 specific genes that are deeply linked to glioblastoma: EGFR, PTEN, and PDGFR-A. And they asked it a really simple but incredibly profound question. What is the absolute best way to attack these genes?
And get this, in less than a minute, the AI just tore through millions of data points. It identified all the key pathways, and it came back with a top-tier drug candidate. The drug it found was called VANDETANIB. Now, here's what's so fascinating about this. VANDETANIB is already an FDA-approved drug, but it's used for totally different conditions. What GaiaLab did was spot its potential to be repurposed, basically to be used in a new way to fight this really deadly brain cancer. So you gotta ask, why this drug? Well, GaiaLab calculated what it calls an 80% fit score. And this isn't just a random number it pulled out of thin air. No, this is a hard metric based on how well the drug matches the gene targets, what the existing clinical evidence says, and its very specific mechanism of action. And this is exactly why that score was so high. VANDETANIB is what you'd call an inhibitor. Its job is to block specific troublemakers. In this case, it can hit all 3 of those target genes at once. You've got EGFR, that's epidermal growth factor receptor. You've got PDGFR-A, that's a mouthful, platelet-derived growth factor receptor alpha. And you've got PTEN. Now, you don't need to remember the names. Just think of them as go signals that tell cancer cells to grow and divide like crazy. VANDETANIB is like a triple threat that just shuts down all 3 signals at the same time. So why is that such a big deal? Because the AI figured out that these 3 genes are all critical players in something called the RAS signaling pathway. And you can think of that pathway as basically the main engine driving the growth of glioblastoma. So by hitting all 3 at once, VANDETANIB could potentially just shut the whole engine down.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking right about now. This sounds incredible. Maybe a little too incredible, right? Like, how do we know the AI isn't just hallucinating? You know, just making stuff up? That's a fair question. So let's dig into how GaiaLab actually makes sure its results are trustworthy. And believe me, that is the #1 question on every scientist's mind. The good news is the platform was built from the ground up to answer exactly that. So let's take a look.
So, the secret sauce here is its evidence-first design. You know how some generative AIs can kind of just invent facts? Yeah, this is built to be the opposite of that. Everything GaiaLab comes up with is backed by totally transparent credibility metrics, like the ones you're seeing here.
So let's break these down. First up, citation coverage. It's at 100%. 100%. What that means is that every single major claim the AI makes is directly linked back to a real, primary scientific paper in PubMed. You can follow the breadcrumbs. There's a complete evidence trail.
All right, next up is what they call the grounded ratio. For this case, it's at 86%. This number basically tells you how much of the AI's thinking is backed up by hard data from scientific papers versus how much is a more, let's call it, an educated leap or something speculative. It's basically a confidence score. And finally, this one is super interesting, the contradiction index. Now, you see a number like 71%, and you might think, whoa, that sounds really high, that sounds bad. But it's actually a feature, not a bug. Here's why. Science is messy. Studies contradict each other all the time. So instead of ignoring that or hiding it, the AI actually measures it. It's a way of flagging for researchers, hey, just so you know, the science is really not settled on this topic. It helps them navigate that real-world complexity.
So when you put all this together, what does it actually mean for the future of science? Well, I think it's pretty clear. We're looking at a fundamental, game-changing shift in the pace of discovery itself.
And I really love this mission statement from the creators. Their goal, they say, is to surface the non-obvious biological signal, so research teams move from geneless to validated hypothesis faster. See, it's not about replacing scientists, not at all. It's about giving them superpowers.
And really, that's the most important thing to remember here. GaiaLab is designed to be a human-in-the-loop tool. It does all the brutal, time-consuming work of sifting through those mountains of research, but it's built to empower the human experts to make the final critical call.
Which kind of leaves us with one final massive thought. If AI can speed up the search for cancer cures this dramatically, literally shrinking months of work into seconds, what's the next great challenge we should point it at?